On Wednesday, Democratic Senator Joe Manchin and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced a deal, a long-awaited deal, and many thought it was dead, but a big deal, $369 billion on energy and healthcare. And there's a lot in there that will affect the Canadian EV manufacturing sector. So I'm going to talk to Matthew Fortier, who is the CEO and president of Accelerate, Canada's ZEV Supply Chain Alliance, about that deal. So welcome to the interview, Matthew.
Great to be here.
Now, before I get to the first question, I just want to say for our viewers, you should download our Energy Media app. It's getting great reviews from users. You can find it at both the Google App Store and the Apple App Store. So on to the question. So Matthew, this is, everybody thought this deal was dead, that Manchin was going to dig in his heels and not give an inch. But the reaction so far has been fairly. Folks on the clean energy side, the EV side, are pleased on both sides of the border. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, we have to kind of give credit where credit's due. You know, our diplomats on the ground in Washington, our policymakers in Ottawa, but also representatives from provinces and from industry have been really been vocal, and they have been making the case and educating people on Capitol Hill around the importance of the auto sector, the continental auto sector. So what do I make of this deal? I mean, clearly it's really good news for Canada, for our auto sector, but also for the full supply chain opportunity in Canada, right? So absolutely, we've got a North American auto sector. We've got parts and vehicles crossing the border multiple times a day, and that can continue, right? That there's a foreseeable future now, and investments can be made and assured, and a future can be drawn within the continent. But I think, as importantly, there's a supply chain opportunity that can really be fleshed out now.
So let's get into some of the specifics. So the clean vehicle credit will remain at $7,500. They're adding a $4,000 credit for used EVs. And this is big. I didn't realize this, but 75% of US vehicles sold each year are used. So right. that credit will be useful to developing a used EV market. And that there was some talk of a $12,500 credit at one time, which would have been trouble for Canada because the supply of EVs would have all gone south of the border, where they would create more demand. What's your take on that credit?
So the great news here is that the credit now applies to vehicles with with content from free trade partners, right? So that clearly includes Canada. And it means that all of a sudden there's an incentive for American drivers to buy EVs, and they can, this becomes much more economical. So all of a sudden there's a real pull. OEMs have an incentive to make more of these things. Battery manufacturing companies have an incentive to invest, and further upstream, mining companies have an incentive. Not only in the U.S., where there actually isn't all of the minerals you need anyway, but so now in Canada and elsewhere, there's an incentive to develop mining projects and processing projects. So, what it means is that the full supply chain can come online, and they can see a future wherein U.S. purchasers and leasers of both new and used vehicles will, be driving vehicles with Canadian content in it.
Right, that's a key part, because the batteries, for instance, will need to contain minerals extracted from, processed from a country, either in the U.S. or have a free trade agreement. But also a portion of the components have to be manufactured or assembled in North America. So that's and this takes me back to a document that Joe Biden, during his campaign to be in 2020, he very specifically said that China had overtaken the U.S. In clean energy, but particularly in batteries and EVs, and he pledged that he would return the U.S. to global leadership in this area by 2030, which is only eight years away. That's not very much time when you're investing in plants and so on. But it seems like this bill might actually put some teeth into that promise.
Yeah, well, he wasn't wrong about China. China has been thinking and doing things in this area for years and years, and they have first mover advantage, and so he wasn't wrong about that. And the politics here, and we can have that conversation, but it's pretty clear. I mean, he's trying to restore manufacturing to the United States. He's trying to kind of reshore some of this stuff. He's trying to create economic activity and jobs. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The missing piece here, and the educational piece for his administration, for people on Capitol Hill, was, well, hold on a second. In the auto sector in particular, this is an integrated market. Like, it doesn't make sense to close this off to only, U.S. components and U.S. shops, because it's just, that's not how this entire industry is set up on this continent. So, they've done a terrific job of educating the folks on Capitol Hill, including, the senator, to ensure that they understood, look, the future of the U.S. auto sector and the U.S. EV sector is a continental one.
Now, this is a really key point to supply chain development in Canada. China is home to 75% of the manufacturing capacity for batteries, lithium-ion batteries, more than 50% of the world's capacity to refine and process the minerals that go into those batteries. And it's not, we often think of it's critical minerals, battery plants, EVs, but there's a stage in there after you get the minerals out of the ground, you have to refine it. And yep. China has a stranglehold on that right now. And that, Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems to me, because there very little or no capacity in North America to do it, that if Canada moves, that's a huge opportunity for us.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. And look, this is also an opportunity that Europe has seen. So their strategy over the coming years is really to develop processing capacity, because they don't have the mining capacity online. And so that will grow, although, to be frank, I mean, there isn't the same mining opportunity in Europe as there is in Canada in particular. So other jurisdictions are seeing this as the opportunity. I mean, look, the bad news is that China is well ahead of everybody else. The good news is that this isn't actually a sprint. This is a long-term race. People in future generations are going to need the critical minerals and metals for these technologies as they change, as they evolve. So lithium and copper and cobalt, all of these minerals are going to be needed. So Canada still has an opportunity, will have an opportunity for a long time to come, but we do need to start developing these projects. I mean, processing is a really, really important part of this. It's not enough to pull it out of the ground and sell it off, right? It's the better economic play is to pull it out of the ground, process it, have the pre-cam and the cam materials produced here, and then produce the batteries in Canada and in North America. I mean, this is a North American play, and that's what we're talking about today. That's the better economic opportunity, because it creates more jobs, more economic activity, more sectors, more firms, more IP.
Are we going to see in Canada, should Canadians expect an uptick in investment announcements in things like battery plants over, say, the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, I don't have any information on specifics, so that time frame I can't speak to. But I would say that this legislation, if it passes, and of course there's still questions around that, is going to be very helpful, because we see it in press releases and in news stories all the time. Canada has this great opportunity because of our critical minerals, because of our auto sector, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this actually helps to visualize what that opportunity is, because there's certainty now being built into it, right? We know that if we develop mining projects and processing projects and battery projects, et cetera, that those materials can be put into vehicles sold in the United States. So there's now some certainty being created around this. So I do think you're going to see more announcements and more foreign direct investment into Canada around batteries. Ideally, we'll also sort of see organic growth of Canadian firms in the same space, right? Because FDI is really important. It's been a really important part of our national strategy to date, and it will continue to be that. But I think you need to see Canadian firms grow up around this too, right? Learn from foreign incumbents and develop our own IP, our own solutions, so that we can sell that globally as well.
Well, Matthew, thank you very much for your insights. Really appreciate this.
Thank you very much, Markham.